Hey folks, this is Ward 6 Council Member Charles Allen. I hope you are having a great time on the Southwest Home Tour. Thanks so much to Waterfront Village for helping put this together. It's really a great celebration of the amazing neighborhoods in Southwest. Such a great place to live, such a great place to for the village to help age in place. I want to thank the village for helping really work with our seniors to help make sure that they can have active living and age in place successfully in their community. Southwest is just a wonderful neighborhood with the river and all the amenities and parks and spaces. It's just great people in a great neighborhood. So thanks everybody. I hope you have a great time on the home tour.
Hi, I'm Tom Sherwood. Welcome to the Southwest Waterfront, a unique waterfront community. On 3 Sunday afternoons starting October 11th, you can join us for virtual tours of our homes and our houseboats. And then after the tours, join us on Zoom for interactive conversations. This is the 3rd year of the popular tour, but because of the virus, it's virtual. And because of that, the Waterfront Village is waiving any admissions fees. Of course, we'd still welcome any donations. To find out more about the tours and to register, please go to our website, waterfrontvillagehometour.org. That's waterfrontvillagehometour.org. We hope to see you soon, and welcome aboard.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Homes of the Southwest Waterfront, a virtual tour through one of the most incredible neighborhoods in DC, Southwest. Proceeds from today's show will benefit the Waterfront Village. I'm Len Bechtel, the Executive Director of Waterfront Village. Along with our board president, Ann Martin, I will serve as co-host of today's program. And what a show it is! A celebration of Southwest. You will get to see our architecture, meet our people, and get a feel for that special spirit which makes Southwest the friendliest and most diverse part of the city. And what's better yet, you'll get to support a great cause in the Waterfront Village. Waterfront Village serves older adults in the Southwest and Navy Yard neighborhood by providing a range of home and health services, referrals, advocacy, and a very engaging social calendar. Homes of the Southwest Waterfront will take place on 3 weekends in October. Each episode will feature 4 different homes, 12 homes in all, including townhomes, apartments, and houseboats. Before we get to today's show, I'd like to remind you that although admission to the broadcast was free, we are accepting donations at our website, www.waterfrontvillagehometour.org. That's www.waterfrontvillagehometour.org. With that, I'm going to turn the show over to Ann to introduce today's 4 homes. Enjoy the show.
Thank you. As I was saying, my name is Ann Martin, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to the 3rd and final episode of the Waterfront Village 2020 Home Tour. We've had 2 previous traditional home tours, but due to COVID, we've adapted and hope you've enjoyed this new format. And it's great for a rainy day. You've met Len Bechtel, the Executive Director of our DC Waterfront Village, and of course, a Southwest resident. I'll be introducing you to the 4 owners of the homes that we'll visit today. Immediately after each home visit, we'll spend a few minutes for quick questions about the home you've just toured. You'll need to use your chat function on the Zoom application to send your questions. After our 4th home visit, we'll have an opportunity for any final questions that you might have. Then I'll be back with you to share the names of the neighbors who made this program possible. But before we begin, as Lynn reminded you earlier, you may want to touch your screen control to set it to the speaker view setting rather than gallery view, so you can enjoy each home with the full picture. And now, come with me and enjoy your visit to Washington's historic and ever vibrant Southwest neighborhood. Our first visit today is in the Town Square Townhouses community. This group of 180 individually owned Georgian-inspired townhouses provide a contrast to the sleek architecture of the condominium and cooperative ownership high-rises, mid-rises, and townhouses throughout Southwest. We would be remiss if we didn't recognize the woman who was considered a visionary, Clothiel Woodard Smith. She campaigned to begin with she called it a blank canvas by raising entire blocks rather than renovating individual structures. Another prominent visionary was the development team of Bressler and Reiner. Their constructs include Waterside Mall, which was raised during our current redevelopment, several of our high-rise buildings, including Town Center Plaza, Town Square Towers, Waterside Towers, and also the original twin EPA office towers that later and more recently were converted to the Leo and the Lex. In previous episodes, we've noted the uniqueness of Southwest history, which is documented in the Library of Congress. Gordon Parks, the renowned photographer, received the prestigious Rosenwald Fellowship in 1941, and he chose to use it to document Black life and culture in Southwest Washington. Striking photos include the 1942 Waterfront Fruit Market photo, family photos, and those of children playing and young boys engrossed in a game of marbles, a typical day in 1940s Southwest. But we're here in 2020, excuse me, we're here in 2020 and entering the home of Andy, Danielle, and little Jackson, who'll more likely play games on his laptop than with marbles. Now, join me in meeting Andy and Danielle and Jackson.
So one of the things that really attracted us to this house is the private outdoor space in the back, and just beyond the fence is a really nice courtyard, which a lot of houses in the neighborhood have. So we spend a lot of time out here and really enjoy it. And it's one of 3 outdoor spaces in the house. The other 2 are balconies, but this space really offers us some nice quiet time, entertaining friends and hanging out with our child. So we really enjoyed this space very, very much. So we really like this particular layout because you can come in and just take off your shoes and coats, and you have the stroller parking here, which is nice, and off to the side is the garage. So it's a really good entry point, and it's minimal but clean but elegant. We really appreciate that. And what we've done with this level, we've made it as much of a functional space as possible. You'll notice that we have the office space down here as well as a living space, which we also use for a guest room, and that's one of the reasons why we decided to take the laundry room and convert that into a full bath. We feel that really works well for the family and for the space, and then we just relocated the laundry and added some closet space. But this has been a really nice space to be and offer us many different uses. This is our favorite part of the house, the what we consider the main floor that has the kitchen, dining room, and family room. We really love the 2 balconies that are in front and back. We spend time there, which is nice. We did quite a lot of work here, even though it was renovated when we bought it. It just wasn't useful for our family, so we decided to open the wall between the kitchen and the living room, which has been great for us. In the living room itself, we really love the span of windows. I think that's probably around 12 feet, which is great. Maybe a little bit more. We really love that. We love being able to look at over into the courtyard, into the patio, and the green space, which is great. We came up with a little IKEA hack for the bookshelves. So those are something we really like, and we've got the kids stuff at the bottom and the adult stuff at the top. But we really enjoy the way they look, and they add some color to the space for sure. Um, the kitchen we really enjoy also. We These are all the original cabinets that were with the house when we bought it last year. But we had them all pulled out. We opened the wall. We completely reconfigured the cabinets and where most of the appliances are, and opened the wall obviously, and replaced the countertops. And we think for our family it really works well. The open space to the family room, while still having basically the same footprint in the kitchen. So we really love that. But what else we did? We also expanded the kitchen and the hallway into the dining room. The dining room is a great space, and it's huge. It's really more space than we need. So we just stole some of the space from the dining room and gave it to the kitchen, which was really helpful for storage, and able to add a little wine fridge and bar, which we like. But we still have plenty of space in the dining room, and we really like the separation of the dining room and the openness of the kitchen to the living room. So and there's a half bath on this level too. So this level we really enjoy and get a lot of good use out of. So we've loved it. The upstairs, we haven't done a whole lot. Just paint, and some refinishing of vanities and some fixtures up there. The baby's room, that was all Danielle. She did a great job of outfitting that, and it looks great, and I think it functions really well, and it's just a nice, peaceful place. We also have a guest room up there, and then our room in the front, which is kind of no frills. It's just really basic but comfortable for us. So we really like that space up there. With this house, you'll see a lot of, or a couple different styles of it on the tour, but what we've done here, we just feel really works for us, and every family uses their house a little bit differently. But what we've created here is something we're really proud of and enjoy.
Thank you, Andy.
Hi, Anne.
Hi, how are you today?
Good. I'm usually the
Wow.
one asking the questions.
I know. How does it feel to be on the other side here? Well, we have
Different.
several questions, most of it having to do with your construction there, taking down walls and opening the wall between the kitchen and the living room. How long did that take, and how did they go about identifying load-bearing beams or that sort of thing?
Actually,
Okay. Noticed a good many trees. How do you deal with all the leaves, or have you had to do that yet?
the leaves aren't bad. It's the berries, I think, from the holly, maybe. So it's that, but we'd rather have plenty of trees than not enough. We've come to really love them, um, and haven't had to do much cleanup yet. Maybe in a month or two.
Great. We do have a question from maybe someone else with a toddler who asked about having a very young person, a couple of years old, and going between floors and keeping little Jackson um, happy on one floor or another.
Yeah, just there's a lot gates everywhere, top and bottom steps. He hasn't mastered the steps yet, so we have to be careful. But there's enough room for him to run around in whatever floor he's on.
Okay, good. We had a question about where your home is located, and we had mentioned in the introduction in Town Square um, townhouses, which are independent owned houses as opposed to condominium of cooperative ownership. And we're not giving specific addresses, I think, as everybody knows who's here on the broadcast. But anyway, thank you very
Uh,
much. And while
I'll speak to that really quickly if you want. It's
yeah,
Townhouse Management,
okay.
which is around 6th and H. We don't have to give the address, but around 6th and H. And I see another, somebody mentioned about the laundry. We put the laundry in the family room on that bottom floor. So just thought I'd get that in since I saw it on the chat.
Very nice. While you're here, Andy, I'll take this opportunity to mention to everyone that Andy Peters has been the chair of all of our home tours, both in person and this year's Zoom tour. So if you see Andy out on the street, be sure to give him a pat. Well, no, not in COVID. Give him a wave and say,
Wave
thank
is
you,
good.
Andy.
A wave is good. No thanks necessary. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Andy. And we're now going to leave Town Square townhouses, but we'll take a quick glance up the street to St. Dominic's Roman Catholic Church, which began in 1806 as the Barry Chapel Mission to serve Southwest Washington. In 1852, the Dominicans established a parish, and in 1875, the now famous architect Patrick Keeley designed a large English Gothic church. Unfortunately, the church suffered devastating fires in 1885 and 1929, but was rebuilt each time and said to be more beautiful than before. In 1954, in the midst of all Southwest buildings being demolished for redevelopment, it was an act of Congress that saved the church, and it still stands where it began in 1852. But we're now on our way to the historic cooperative Harbor Square, built about 114 years after St. Dominic's. As we saw in previous episodes, panoramic views of the Washington Channel, landscape gardens, and reflecting pools are on display for its residents. A couple other figures from history also figure prominently in Southwest history. If you've enjoyed the music of soul music superstar Marvin Gaye, he was a Southwest resident spending most of his childhood here. Reaching way back in entertainment history, if you've heard of Al Jolson, star of the first talking movie, The Jazz Singer, he also grew up in Southwest. And he attributed his later success in part to the fact that while growing up in Southwest, and I'm going to quote, he had traveled with a tough gang and learned Afro-American dialects, unquote. Well, here we are with Joanne and David, who will share with us some details of another Southwest resident who played a very important role in more recent history. So let's say hello to Joanne and David.
When we came to settlement, David and I were very surprised at a particular gift that we got, something that was conveyed to us along with our deed and our keys. And I'll tell you more about the keys in a moment. But what was conveyed to us was a scrapbook about the Humphreys purchase and residence in our apartment, or what's now our apartment. So we got the scrapbook, and along with it, we got 3 keys, just 3. And they were not replicable because they were property of the US government. If you look very carefully at this sample key that we've set out for you, you'll see that it has an HH on it. We treasured these keys because we knew that they were the original ones that the Humphreys had used when they were here. By the time they moved in here, the Humphreys apartment looked a bit different than it does now. For one thing, they had to have installed green bulletproof glass windows because the assassination of President Kennedy, of course, was still very much on everybody's mind. You're looking at the rest of the living room. We're leaving the kitchen and dining room areas, and we're walking, I guess, the width of the apartment toward the living room. Now we're leaving the living room, and we're heading for the den. This apartment is considered to be a 3-bedroom apartment, but one of the bedrooms is actually what you're about to see. And it's a den now, obviously, and it was in Humphrey's time.
So this is the guest bathroom right outside the den. You can see the den is here. And it was a favorite place for Lyndon Johnson to goad Hubert Humphrey into reciting for him his pro-Vietnam War speeches, which Johnson, of course, didn't hear in person, except when he got Humphrey to sort of recite them for him.
You may wonder what it's like to live in a place that was once inhabited by somebody as famous as Hubert Humphrey, and also Muriel, who became the first woman senator from Minnesota when her husband died and she inherited his place in the Senate. But it has two sides to it. At first, it was very preoccupying to us that we were living in this place, and we felt that we needed to sort of memorialize Humphrey. So we we got at the time of settlement, we were given a book, a scrapbook that had articles about his move here and had some photographs, and we actually extracted the photographs and had three things framed. As we adjusted and began to feel that this was really our home, we took down the picture of the Humphreys, we got new keys, and we put up a picture of my grandparents at their 50th wedding anniversary and a clock that they got as a wedding gift in 1898. You just saw a photograph of my grandparents at their golden wedding anniversary celebration. That was in England. It was in Liverpool, where they lived and where most of my family has lived. Their oldest daughter, Edith Doris Abraham, was a social worker who was very active during World War II. She envisioned and really helped to get started a program for very poor families who were doubly stressed by poverty and by bombing. And she brought these families, or at least she brought the mothers and children, to this, what was called a recuperative center, where the mothers would get a bit of a break. They'd get their meals provided, they'd get the house cleaned for them, and they'd live there for a few weeks, and they would be taught how to prepare a good meal on a budget using what was rationed. So for this effort, she was honored by the Queen. And we have on one wall the document that she got, signed by Elizabeth R., the Queen of England. Elizabeth, there you are. That was one thing. In 1958 she got it. And she also got and willed to me a medal and a ribbon showing that she was now a member of the Order of the British Empire.
The last thing we want to show you is some of my father's artwork. He was a professional artist his whole life. And he's best known for paintings of the Jewish diaspora between World War I and World War II. Most of what he painted was one way or another eliminated during the Nazi period. And of course, almost all the inhabitants were exterminated. What's on our main living room wall here is not that work, but an equally famous series of paintings by him of 59th Street in Manhattan, on which he had a studio. It was very different than it is now, much less ritzy. This is inside of Bloomingdale's. It's a beauty demonstration. Bloomingdale's was on 59th between 3rd and Lexington Avenue, where it still is. No customers now, probably, or few, because of the virus. But it was packed back then, just 1946 to 48 he did this series. But I'll show you just a couple of examples of the work he did in the Jewish diaspora. These are sketches. This is what Rue de Rosier in Paris looked like. This is, give or take, about 1930. And this is Vilna, which was the world center of Jewish learning for centuries. Empty now. Of course, there are no Jews in Vilna anymore. They've either fled, but most were slaughtered by the Nazis. But even though there are no Jews in Lithuania, there's plenty of anti-Semitism. So the last thing we'll show you is his quest to determine whether or not Jews would qualify as a separate race. Big issue in those days. So this is his portrait of a German Jewess, which we have a special affection for. But in any event, he concluded that Jews looked like people who were non-Jews in all the locations he was at, from Asia to North Africa to all over Eastern and Western Europe.
Wow. Joanne and David, do we have you here?
Sure, indeed. Hello, Andy.
Hi. How are you? Good to see you again.
Well, thanks
Oh,
for
thanks
letting
for
us
doing
see
this.
your home. We appreciated that.
My pleasure. That was yours is something special. Mine's new and needs some character. Yours is also relatively new and has a ton of character. That art collection was amazing. Do you ever have any viewing parties or anything like that? Is a question I think came across the line.
Well, it'd be nice to celebrate the end of this pandemic with a genuine opportunity for people who are interested to come up and look.
That
I mean, we're obviously not having any kind of parties right now, but
yeah. Well, this was kind of a party for that. But yeah, we look forward to it all being over and reconnecting again soon. Thanks so much. We could do an entire hour on many hours on your place with all that history that we actually couldn't fit into the segment. Is there anything that we missed there that you'd like to share about the Humphrey part of it, or anything else?
Well, if there are questions, why don't we take a couple of questions?
Let me see where they are. Yeah, we had a question about the bulletproof glass.
uh,
Any of it still there?
no,
No,
it
no.
isn't.
No,
There
we're-
isn't any here. I
We're
mean,
subject to the same risks as everybody else in Harbor Square.
You are, okay. And somebody mentioned that in the cartoon, it looked like in the Humphrey cartoon, it looked like a Harbor Square balcony.
Yes,
Yes.
it was.
Is that what that was intended to be?
Well, it was a joke. It was actually a cartoon in the Washington Star, which was owned by Joe Olbritton, who lived just above us at the time I think that cartoon was made. But anyways, Humphrey had hoped, as his successors finally achieved, to have his own freestanding house.
the vice presidential mansion.
right.
Yeah.
Sure.
He had to make do with S801, and so he's being ribbed a little. He was sort of lounging on the balcony. We're looking at it right now, and what's coming out of his head is, a bubble that expresses his dream for a real. Humphrey was not a wealthy man, and it was a bit of a stretch for him and Muriel to buy this apartment.
I see. And do you know how long they were there?
Many, many years. Muriel lived here, I think, until she went back to Minneapolis. So I can't give you the exact amount, but I'd say give or take about 10 years. Humphrey died while the two of them owned this apartment, and she stayed on here, as Joanne mentioned in the tour, to fill out his Senate term.
Okay. And two more. One's a comment and one's a question. Somebody in the Zoom call mentioned that they used to see the Humphreys walking along the waterfront
Oh,
my
yeah.
goodness.
with no visible security.
Oh my goodness. Well,
I don't think that would be happening these days. But last question. Somebody wants to know what other musical instruments you play besides the piano.
Well, I tell you, we've lived a very long life, fortunately, and it's been characterized by random intervals of playing the recorder, the viola, the violin, not the piano. The piano is an expression of our hope someday that all these intermittent phases of our life will come together and we'll get somebody to come play the piano with us.
Well, I know of somebody on this call right now. I won't say his name, David Ehrlich. He plays great piano, and they're also great sponsors as well. So maybe we could put something together at some point soon when this is all over. But thank you so much. That was wonderful to tour your home, and we really appreciate it.
Well, thanks for your interest.
Thank you.
Thank you. Back to Anne.
Okay, thank you, Andy. We're now going to head down to the Wharf Gangplank Marina, which is one of the largest liveaboard communities in the country with 88 slips dedicated to full-time residents. Before we go aboard, we should remember that waterways were even more vital and important in the days before railroad and modern transport, especially for defense. And that was true here in Washington, D.C. also. The Navy Yard, which is part of our community, was established in 1799 and is the nation's oldest naval facility. George Washington reserved the land for federal use. The 1803 design for the main gate we can still see. It was designed by Henry Latrobe and it's still standing at 8th and M Streets Southeast. Unfortunately, in 1814, the buildings were intentionally set on fire to keep them from falling into the hands of advancing British forces in the War of 1812. But the buildings were rebuilt, and in 1886, the Naval Gun Factory was established. During World War II, the Navy Yard employed 22,300 people. Can you imagine 22,300 people coming into Southwest to the Navy Yard? In 1912, the first airplane was successfully catapulted from the site, and this established a principle that would be employed in aircraft carrier takeoffs up until the present day. If we continue further south along the channel and river, we'll come to Bowling Air Force Base, which is also a Southwest resident. In 1941, Colonel Ovida Culp Hobby was brought to Washington to head the Women's Auxiliary Army Corps, better known as the term the WACs. You may have heard that. As the war effort grew, 10,000 women in the WAC Corps were housed at Bowling Field. But let's come back to our local marina and join Bobby and Bob and take a look at their home. Permission to come aboard?
Whenever we say we live on a houseboat, everybody all of a sudden, wants to know, wow, that's great. So it's down by the wharf. That's even better. We bought the boat in 2015, and it's a 1974 Harbor Master, and it was in horrible condition. The owner thought we were buying it to bring a new boat in and just scuttle that one. But my wife fell in love with it and thought we could really, when we buy another boat, it'll be somebody else's plan. We can actually fix this the way we'd like it. So we had no idea how much it would cost. It probably would have been a lot cheaper to buy a new boat, but honestly, we love this boat the way we've fixed it up. So my wife works for the government, and it's only a half a mile walk from here. We have a house in Vienna, Virginia. It's an hour and a half commute for her. So we live down here during the week, and we live in Vienna on the weekends. I have an office in Reston, so it's a reverse commute for me, which is not a problem. In 2015, we had to take it into dry dock because the hull had some blisters on it. As it turned out, the entire hull delaminated, and we had to have an entirely new hull. You know, it was one thing led to another. While you have it here, can you do this? Can you do that? And they found some rotten wood, and the whole back deck had to be replaced. So we thought, well, as long as the back deck's replaced, can you do the salon, which is now our bedroom? And they said, sure. And Mark Rabush, who owned the marina at the time, said, I've got this really neat idea for a bathroom. We'll just have it enclosed in glass, and it'll be a wet bathroom. So it's a shower and a toilet all in one. And I was very skeptical because I had drawn up some plans for something else. But my wife said, that's great, we'll do that. And so it's really cool. I mean, it's probably the best feature of the boat now. Me, along with a local craftsman, really, he's more than a carpenter, renovated the kitchen. I had some ideas, he had other ideas, and so it turns out that I like my kitchen here better than the one in my townhouse. So it's really nice. I mean, it's like nothing you see in most houseboats. It's really a tiny home, and we could actually live here all the time. We have enough storage. We have 2 refrigerators, gas stove, grill, everything we have at home, except it's only about, I don't know how many square feet it is.
Probably 500, if that.
500. I guess it would be very similar to living in a tiny house. The first year we took the boat out several times. The first year we had mega engine problems, and we're still having engine problems, but my wife has decided that she likes this so much she doesn't want to. She said, why would you take your house out to sea? So it's very similar, but what we do have is sitting up after work, having a glass of wine on the deck, looking out at the water. It's just very beautiful, and the sunsets are unbelievable. The old marina, we were closer to the stores and the restaurants of phase 1, and they built this whole new marina for us, which is great. The docks are not falling down. Everything is stable. But then the value of the slips increased dramatically, and a lot of people sold their boats. And I think the character of the community changed a lot. We still have our basic core of friends, but it doesn't seem like it seems like everybody in the whole marina would come together for captain's coffee or happy hour, and now it's just smaller group. But they're really, I mean, our core group of friends hasn't really changed. A couple of them have moved out, but we still stay in contact. But it's a very unique. We've never had in any of the places that I lived as felt as close to our neighbors as we do here, because everybody, there's only like 84 of us, and the people are unique. They're not like normal. They're not like normal people, I feel part of Southwest, and I really like Southwest because it's so diverse. Looking east, I guess, are all the new apartments where they're all young millennials. But deeper into the neighborhood and at the grocery store, you see all the regular middle-class Washingtonians living their lives. And there's blacks, Hispanics, and I've never really lived in a diverse neighborhood like this, but it's really, really nice. Everybody's so friendly. At the grocery store, everywhere. It's a very friendly neighborhood.
Wow. Bobby.
Hi.
How are you?
Good.
Good to see you. Thank you so much. I take it you're not on the boat right now.
No, I'm back in Vienna we're trying to renovate this kitchen so it'll be as good as the one on the boat.
So you're gonna have the white shaker cabinets just like you did.
Oh yeah, you can see them right there behind me.
Yeah, yeah, it looks like it. We have a lot of questions, but first I'll just say that I think for everybody on this call, if they spend any time in Southwest, which they probably do, they probably imagine what it's like to live on a boat, uh, whether it's the yacht club or the gangplank. And for some of us, it's become more than just a passing thought, but maybe some research also. How did you decide to finally take the leap?
Well, my wife was a federal judge and she retired and she remained very active. She always has these ideas. And I came home from work one day and she said, I bought a boat. And so, of course, I was in shock and I let her show me and it was awful.
Okay.
But she said, I have this dream. And so, well, okay, well, let's go. You were smart enough to be a judge. So well, I'm going to follow you. And so, after 5 years now, it's a nice getaway. I mean, we could live there. A lot of the people in the marina do live there. So, but we live here in Vienna most of the time. But we like DC. We love DC, and we love Southwest. And so, probably half of the time we're there now. In 15 and 16, she was still working. So, and I was already retired, so we'd stay on the boat during the week and then come back to Vienna on the weekends.
Got it.
But just come to really love DC. And then we decided that as we get older, we want one of these condos like we've been seeing, the 2 apartments that were before us. I'm just really jealous now. But for now, the boat will do. Every time we're there, we say we can actually live here. This is good.
Yeah, it would be a shorter commute to the boat.
Yeah.
Along the water here in town, and that can be arranged. There's plenty of inventory there if you make the move. Another question had to do with the clothing attire. You have a closet, I assume, in Vienna. You have a closet on this boat. How does that differ? Do you have to think about what you're bringing with you? Is it already?
We do, yeah. Well, my wife maintains a whole wardrobe. She doesn't need to bring anything because she gets all the closets.
Yeah.
And below, as you notice, you go down into the salon. Underneath of the kitchen part, we do have a cuddy cabin, which is about, 39 inches tall. You can crawl into it. There's a bed there. We slept there the first 2 or 3 years. It was very cozy. It's finished and heated and cooled. But now we just use it as storage. So I pretty much carry my clothes back and forth, and she's got everything she needs there. So that's
Sounds like a very efficient person. As far as the time you spend on the boat, do you spend that much time on the boat in the winter? And what's it like when you do spend time during the winter months?
We don't spend that much time in the winter, but we have heat pumps there that work on the water. So when the water temperature gets below 40 degrees, we have to convert to little plug-in heaters. And they're fine until it gets down to about like maybe 12 degrees. And then it's very cold.
During the winter, like I see some of the others out there?
They're all there. Everyone's there, Most of the people live there.
Okay. Do they wrap their boats in plastic? I see this plastic wrap around some of the boats during the winter months.
The people who leave seasonally do wrap their boats.
Got it.
Or people up in the other marina wrap their boats because they're mostly boaters and not live-ins.
Got it.
A few of the people in our marina do. Most of them actually live there all year round. Some have better heaters than others. Some of the boats have regular heat pumps like you would have in a regular house, so they have no problem. But the boats and the yachts are dealing with space heaters.
Got it. So a couple more questions. Sorry to keep you trying to squeeze in a few more. The Big Easy, is this your first boat and your wife's first boat, or
Yes, we didn't know anything about boats when she bought this boat.
that's the way to do it again. Just jump in. You know something about them now, though.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Luckily, there are people in the marine, and this is an unbelievable community. You know, I've lived in a lot of communities where I barely know my neighbors. I know everyone here, and everyone there. All you have to do is type into the hotline. I need help with this, and there's always somebody that will help. And luckily, the guy next door knows everything about boats. So slowly, we've learned how stuff works.
Yeah, we've heard it's a really tight community. Well, thanks for sharing your space.
Thank you for entertaining me.
Thanks again. Back to
Bye-bye.
Ann. Take care.
Thank you, Andy. As we leave the marina, let's take one last look out at the water. But it's also useful to remember that this is the Washington Channel. You may hear it referred to as the Potomac River or the Anacostia River, but these two rivers actually meet at Greenleaf's Point, which is now the location of Fort McNair. Because of ease of transport for both people and goods on the water, Greenleaf Point was the location of councils among various Native American tribes, and it was also the gathering place in the spring months as their annual fishing ground. The name Anacostia comes from a Native American settlement that was located here long before any European settler ever arrived. But we're going to head north now. It's back to the federal-style town square townhouses, and we're going to pass our nationally renowned theater, Arena Stage. Built in Southwest in 1960, it was the first American playhouse designed to the specifications of an existing theater company, which had been founded 10 years earlier. But it pioneered the theater in the round concept. Arena was the first regional theater to transfer a production to Broadway, and Arena was the first to receive the Regional Theater Tony Award. In 2008, Arena broke ground for a new building, and 2 years later, the Arena Stage at the Mead Center for American Theater was opened. It has emerged as a national center for new plays and groundbreaking productions. Covering 200 square feet, you can't miss it. It features a dramatic and sweeping cantilevered roof soaring toward our revitalized waterfront. But now here we are, arrived at the home of Bob and Chris for a visit. Hello?
When I bought the house, it was a series of ivory semi-gloss rooms. It had been a rental home, and to get it ready to sell, the previous owners had just spray painted everything ivory semi-gloss. The ceilings, the walls, they painted over the light switches, the electric outlets, the staircase. So pretty much everything except the floors had just been sprayed to make it look clean. So it was sort of like a canvas. What I did was really sort of tried to reproduce rooms that I really liked, that I'd seen traveling. And then this particular room is sort of a combination of a couple rooms. Mainly it's the Nathaniel Russell house in Charleston, South Carolina, because the color that you see is actually, it looks peach to those of us who aren't from Charleston, but apparently in South Carolina on the coast, it's considered shrimp pink. And if you think of it, of the color of boiled shrimp, there you see it. This room was actually
an outdoor deck. And I got the idea to enclose it from two enclosed porches I had seen at resorts, one in Virginia, the Homestead, and one in West Virginia at the Greenbrier. And both of them had taken what had been, they'd probably say verandas, being Southerners, and they had enclosed them to extend the function rooms that were adjacent to them. So these colors are more true colors. They're bright, snappy colors. And again, to try and create another environment in the house, this sort of tells you you're someplace different. This is not just, the living room isn't just bigger. You're in a different place. And it's also like it's our tree house. You're surrounded by trees. Greatest thing is when it rains or snows to go out here. When it rains, if it's not cold, we lower the windows so we can sit here and listen to the rain. But when it's snowing, it's magic. So they have coffee or tea out there with snow hitting the windows. It's just it's just incredible. We live in the home. It might look like a museum house, but it's not. It's a house to live in. Um, I worked when I was young. I worked in the hotel industry, and then when I was older, I worked for the American Hotel Association. My father worked for the Drake Hotel in Chicago. So I have had friends teasing me, telling me that what I've really created here is a hotel lobby. But I'll take that.
Okay.
I like hotel lobbies. Luckily, one of my hobbies is furniture and decorative artifacts restoration. So I've always been good at going to secondhand stores, antique malls, junk stores, and finding something that's scratched, broken, what have you, and repairing it, refinishing it. I learned how to refinish furniture at a young age from my mother, who also did it. And some things do require professional help. But if you can do 90% of it yourself and then take it to a professional refinisher to just do a difficult, carving, for example, or a panel on the side of something, it's very, very affordable. A lot of things that you can find values are just things that need cleaned, professionally cleaned. And it's not that hard to come close to a professional clean. You just have to find out how to do it. A lot of the Oxy products that you can get in the laundry section of any supermarket are good. You can, for example, make a paste with the laundry detergent and pack a vase or an urn with that, like make a pumice and just pack it and let it dry and then wash it off, and that will pull the dirt out of something that doesn't have a hard ceramic finish. I've always found this portrait of the current Queen Elizabeth very interesting. Um, I stumbled over this in a copy of the London Illustrated News, which was like a British version of Life magazine, if you will, from the coronation of the Queen in 1952. So, well, I liked it. And so, what I did to try and make it look like a painting, which I could never afford, I had it copied onto Canvas through Shutterfly, which is an online service where you just upload the image and have it printed. And then once I got it back, I used a clear substance that you buy. It looks like an artist's tube of paint, but it's clear. It's called gesso. I may be saying it wrong, Gesso. And then I brush stroked it. That means you paint over where brush strokes would be using big globs of this stuff, and you try to create brush strokes. And then you go to Michael's and you buy a frame and you put it up, and you've spent about $45, $50 instead of who knows, tens of thousands, because that's what I had to spend. Well, I guess a showpiece house or a showplace or a museum house would probably be one that you would walk in and you would look at objects I would say if your attention is grabbed, oh, look at that beautiful painting. Oh, look at that beautiful urn. Oh, look at that carpet, whatever. And if the person who owns that house is prepared to talk to you about things, that's probably a show place. By contrast, I'm going to go back to the hotel example. You can walk into a beautiful hotel lobby or a beautiful hotel bar and acknowledge that it's beautiful, but also have no hesitation sitting down and relaxing.
Wow, Bob, Chris, are you there?
Andy.
Bob, hey,
Yes. Hey there.
great to see you.
You as well.
Former executive director, we're so happy to have you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Are you
Happy to be here.
sitting on your extra room off the living room? What do you call
Yes.
it?
Yes, it's actually an extension of the living room legally. It's not an additional room. Zoning laws.
Got it. One of the questions that came through was about that space,
Mhm.
what it took to enclose it, and what did that entail?
Yeah, well, it was originally a deck, so it was a matter of taking what the railing had been, which was right here, and then having that framed out by a carpenter, a Southwest-based company. And then a window company came in and did the windows, and then everything else, all the detail that you see, I did myself. I do carpentry and woodworking. But it's important that if you're considering something like that, you need to go to DC, I think it's DCRA, Consumer and Regulatory Affairs, and see what current zoning is. Because when I did it, it did not count as an additional room as long as there were no electrical outlets and no heating or air conditioning ducts added to the space. Had either of those things been a part of the plan, it would have had to have been done as an additional room. Now, one of my neighbors told me that has changed. That's almost 20 years ago now. So anybody who's considering that, make sure that your architect or you check current zoning laws.
Got it. That's good advice. It's such a gorgeous house. It really is, and you shared some of your inspiration throughout. I think you mentioned the Greenbrier once.
Yes.
Does that have anything to do with a lot of the color scheme, or each room's?
It does, some of it. The dining room that you actually saw, that's the color scheme of their dining room. And in fact, the dishes that you saw are actually from the Greenbrier Resort. It's scrapes and dents, I call them, things that they sell that are chipped or what have you, that they don't use for their dining room service. That was actually given to me by several friends who knew my affection for the hotel, and they stumbled across one of those sales and pick some of those pieces up. But yeah, it's a beautiful place.
It really looks beautiful. And speaking of the dining room, somebody mentioned it looked like towards that front balcony in the dining room, flanking the windows, there seemed to be two tables,
Mm-hmm.
but it only with two legs
Yes.
on each table. Was that a single table that was split? And
Yes, it was. It was. It was a single table. It's a table with a leaf, and the leaf, of course, is gone. And then the two halves of the table are mounted with brackets into the walls.
and obviously you did that yourself.
I did that myself. Yes, I did everything, pretty much everything myself.
The detail work, the paneling, the molding, I don't even think we really focused in on the staircase.
Mm-hmm.
The staircase, if I know your house a little bit, I know it's gorgeous and fantastic. Is that a pretty straightforward kind of design or execution of it, or is it?
There is no straightforward design in a house of this age. No, the stairway is really tricky because one thing I learned that a banister, the handrail is not a consistent height from the top to the bottom. The handrail gets progressively higher as one nears the foot of a staircase. That's for safety and also for aesthetics. I'm told that way it looks level, but it has to get a bit higher. Well, that means if you do woodworking up the side of a staircase, wainscoting, that has to change a little bit going all the way up. So if you're cutting molding, decorative molding, every piece has to be cut individually. I didn't know that when I started.
At what point did you
start, can't stop. You know.
So you just started it and then you figured it out as you went along
And you know, Andy, one thing that our viewers might find interesting, your house started this week's tour, is that we have the same houses
I know.
interpreted two very different ways.
Very, very different. And yours is inspiring. Your foyer and mine is completely bland, where yours adds so much
No,
color.
yours isn't bland. It's cleansing and inspiring. Beautiful. And it's a great family house too.
It is.
It's supposed to be used.
And so is yours, of course. You know, I'm getting a lot of questions about the dining room, and people were learning a little bit more about you by just a quick tour of that. But I thought I saw a case with Queen Mary cruise ships. What was that?
Oh, it's actually a lot of transatlantic steamship memorabilia with every shelf pretty much representing a decade of ocean liner travel. And it starts out with the Edwardian period, and there's a model in there of the Olympic and Titanic, that it jumps up to the 1930s. There's a model of the Queen Mary, jumps to the 50s, the SS United States, QE2, the France, etc. Then each shelf also has everything from playing cards to matchbooks for those different eras. So yeah, it's just a historical collection. I was a Navy brat, so with an interest and a love of ships.
Got it. And that's exclusively in that case, or do you have that, use that as inspiration anywhere else throughout?
No, it's exclusively pretty much in that case. You have to trap things like that, or they take over your house.
Well, we could have my kid go in there and just disrupt everything, but we won't do that
At all.
We have one more question. You did your own work in a lot of this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is your garage still a garage, or is it Bob's workshop? And also, would anybody be able to commission any of this work and have you do it for modest price?
Well, the first question, the garage is a garage, but it's easily convertible to Bob's workshop. I have some very large, very sturdy folding tables beyond what you or I could buy, say, at Home Depot, that are made for carpentry type work, and I can set those up. Then I do have an electric saw and some other things, because it's real carpentry, and it does take a real setup. And I got some extra bright lights that I can light up in the ceiling when I do that kind of work. But it does work as a garage, yes. And no, I don't do any sort of consulting. Actually, the builder that helped me with things in the house that I couldn't do did ask me if I would do that with his company, to sort of do that light side.
Finishing carpenter type thing.
Yeah, but no, I'll be glad to speak with anybody about ideas for their home, but not any professional manner, and certainly not on-site construction, no.
Last question, having nothing to do with carpentry. It's about the Elizabeth Taylor photo. You've been asked about that.
That was Liza Minnelli, but I think he would be I think Liza Minnelli would be flattered by that if we could get to her in some way. Do you have her number still?
No. New phone. Well, thank you so much. Really appreciate you joining us. It was incredible to tour your home.
It was a pleasure. Congratulations on a successful tour, and thank you for sharing it.
Very much. All right, Ann, right back to you. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Andy and Bob. Well, as you've seen, our home tour of 2020 was a result of many talented and generous people, both those who put it together and our homeowners who shared their homes with us. Bob Rose provided inestimable help in coordinating participation of our boat homes. Tom Sherwood, radio personality and TV and radio personality here in Washington, and Southwest resident, provided his time and talent for our promotional video. A special thank you to our longtime village donor, Nelson Crouch. As you might imagine, the videography and editing took many, many hours, and our heartfelt appreciation goes to the incomparable duo of Bruce Moody and Vanya. Vanya also served as our program director throughout the process. Our technical director was Dr. Perry Klein, chair of the Southwest Neighborhood Assembly Technology Task Force, who devoted many hours to the magic of technology. Our technical assistance team today was Dick Lang and Christine Wilson. The committee bringing you this maiden voyage of a Zoom home tour was headed by Andy Piers, as we noted earlier today. Andy deserves a most special thanks as he has chaired each of Waterfront Village's previous in-home tours. Village past president Barbara Ehrlich provided historical detail and editorial help. Elaine Graves, who is co-author of a booklet for River Park, provided a wealth of information about Southwest history. Other committee members were Max Aguilar, Carol Cowgill, and Carol Quinn. Of course, our executive director keeps the wheels of the village turning every day, but he cannot do this, and we cannot provide programs without continuing financial support. Please join me as I give a word of thanks to our corporate sponsors. Our silver sponsors, the National Capital Bank, KVS Title, Piers Residential. Other donors, Georgetown Home Care, Southwest Business Improvement District, Smile Beautiful, the Southwest Chamber Players, Trust Ad Champions, Vellum Mortgage, 1331 Maryland, 555 East Street, J.R. Lynch Real Estate Partners, Right Size Law, and River Point. By the way, if you can, sorry about that, turning pages, but if you can, we're happy to accept donations of any size to continue the work of Waterfront Village. Through the work of our volunteers, we're able to provide grocery and pharmacy shopping, delivery, transportation, meals as needed, and constant updates to take during this period of COVID precaution, in addition to our monthly newsletter. If you'd like to show your appreciation to both our homeowners who graciously gave of their time and opened their homes to us, and our team who put these 3 weeks together, even a gift of $5 an episode would be welcome, or any other amount that you might choose. Just go to our website, www.waterfrontvillagehometour.org.